So this evening's Travelogue presenter is Dr. Kristiina Ovaska. And like many people in my life, she towers over me by about 2 feet. And she's been a great mentor to me, actually. So I've known Chris for probably somewhere around 15 to 25 years. I don't really know. And we are co-chairs for the IUCN ASG. And we co-published last year in Nature. I don't think I wrote a word, but we were authors. And we're working with a number of authors in the room on a Canadian manuscript. But Chris actually has incredible curiosity that goes way beyond herpetology. And I'm always on her Facebook page, particularly interested in the dogs. I love that you have scent dogs, and I really enjoy looking at that. And definitely, I've always been kind of amazed at how you balance in the world of consulting. I got to meet your kids one year, and they're gorgeous, and they're as tall as you are. And so I'm really happy that you're doing this travelogue because you have had some incredible journeys. And so I think that you should come up here, and we should see the size difference between you and I, just like me and Leanne. And I think you're going to have a great talk. So come on up.
Okay, we're ready to go here with the light being perfect. I wanted to show you my shirt. A friend of mine just gave it to me today, especially for this talk. Yay! I'm not quite sure what species that is. It may be one of the undescribed species. Maybe it'll come up in the quiz, so take a good look. Here's a map of South America and showing the major biomes there. And the red area is the Amazon basin and the lowland Amazon forest. It's a just absolutely mind-bogglingly huge area, about 7 million square kilometers or something like that, and has the highest biodiversity of any forest. And this is also true for amphibians. There's documented densities or diversity of amphibians is over 100 species within a 5 square kilometer area. So it's just an amazing area. So where we're going to go today is mostly to the Amazon in Ecuador and Peru, but also a little bit to the Andes, the blue areas here, and to the Choco area along the Pacific coast, the Pacific slope of the Andes. Over the past 10 years or so, I've been fortunate enough to make numerous trips to the Peruvian and Ecuadorian tropical forests looking for herbs, either as part of research projects or as part of photograph projects. Oh, let me just go back here. So these yellow symbols here are in the Amazon lowlands. Those on the right, on the other side, in the blue one is the Choco Pacific slope of the Andes, and there are some cloud forest sites as well. So first, where we're going to go is to the Pastaza River, Capawi, Ecuador. And if we just go back here, oh, we're going forward. Let's go back. Is this one? I'll try to use this pointer. It's supposed to work. Here, right on the Peruvian border in Ecuador. It's a fly-in place. It's quite remote. And there's a indigenous run eco-lodge there in the Capawi. It's a fly-in place, no roads. There were 3 of us, so we were flying on 2 small planes. They are also owned by the Achua people. This was not the first time I've flown over the Amazon on a small plane. The first time was, my daughter just pointed out, it must have been about 50 years ago when my partner and I were along the Amazon in a place called Leticia, and we hitchhiked a ride on a cargo plane from Leticia to Bogota, Colombia. And it gives you a really good view of the Amazon basin and of the forest. But then what happened is the plane started going, we were wondering, is it really supposed to be flying so close to the canopy? And then it started going down, and we thought we were going to crash. And there were no seatbelts, there were no seats. So you sort of holding on to the cargo. And it landed right in the middle of the forest in a small clearing. And immediately, almost immediately after, another plane landed there. And these men with army fatigues jumped out with their rifles drawn. So now we thought we're not going to, we didn't crash, but we're going to die anyway. They're going to shoot us on the spot. It didn't happen. There were some, I still don't know what happened. There were some negotiations. Maybe it was drugs or weapons or whatever. And they left them. We just ended up having a glass of lemonade on the veranda of the ranch house that the pilot had there. So that was my first experience. The second experience was not quite as dramatic. But I must tell you, I've never been on a plane that is chased by a pack of dogs when you're landing. And you also get to see your plane leaving on the ridiculously short runway, which is maybe not the greatest thing to see. So when you go up the Pastaza River for a couple of hours, you arrive at the Capaui Eco Lodge. Is 100% indigenous owned and operated. It's a great place. This is our team. The person in the yellow shirt is Paul Hamilton from the Ecuador Biodiversity Project, who organized the trip for us. Brian Lee in the blue shirt, who is a photographer and amateur entomologist. And our Matteo in the middle, who was our local Achua guide. He was, once we gave him a flashlight, he turned out to be a very good spotter and a night guide. He was even good enough spot to let the tarantula place on his face. I don't recommend this because the tarantulas leave little hairs on your skin and it can be quite itchy. Use an anti-fidget if you have to do that. The frogs are just absolutely amazing. Tree frogs, highly tree frogs are very diverse. Here are some of the larger species, the Philomedusas, a number of species of them there. They're called monkey frogs. They live up in the canopy, and probably because the way they move, like monkeys reaching with their long legs. Here's another species of Philomedusa. Another group of large tree frogs are the boanas, the genus Boana. Some of you may know this genus as Hypsiboas. It was changed within the last couple of years to Boana. A very large number of species of them. This is a map tree frog. You can see that they have this really intricate pattern on the nictitating membrane or the third eyelid. It's probably to protect the eye when they're swimming, and also when they get scared. This is a scared frog. If you go too quickly close to them, they close the third eyelid. Here you can see it really well on this this juvenile map tree frog. They can still see, so they can still see you, but I guess it gives some camouflage function. And they have these incredible toe bats too. This is obviously a climbing frog. Another very pretty boana, the polka dot tree frog. Also, a very numerous and species-rich genus is the Dendrosophus. These are small tree frogs. If you go on the other side of this leaf, this is what you see. And the synax, I love the synax. I call them the hyena frogs. Unfortunately, I don't have any sound recordings, but to me, they sound like hyenas. And the toads. This is Rhinella margaritifera, or used to be called the margaritifera, but now that's no longer a valid species. I don't believe. It's a complex of species. Some of them are named, and others are still nameless. And a little toad. And they can climb. Oh, and these are my favorites. I have a particularly soft spot for the Pristimantis species. They have direct development. Sometimes they call the rain frogs or the whistling frogs. They used to be in the same genus as Ulyssedactylus. I used to study them for several years in the West Indies. One could describe them, they're the little brown jobs of frogdom. They're superficially similar. They have to look at them very closely to identify them. And then I saw this and I was all excited, not because I haven't seen frogs in amplexus before, but this in the West Indies with Ulyssedactylus, this never happens out in the open. The male leads the female into a secretive hidden nesting chamber, and he can have many females in there. So, but here, so what is going on here with Pristimantis? And that wasn't the only bear. It was quite a common occurrence. And I was told actually by the other side was with, if you want, you can just stay here and watch them all night. And I thought maybe I should, it's my first time at Kapari, maybe I should just join the group and look for some other stuff. So this is a mystery. Someone has an all night to sit with watching these frogs. They do something interesting. Some of the places where Matteo led us were quite difficult to go through and muddy. But there's advantages to that too. You can look down and you see some of the species that live on the ground and in these mud holes. This is an Oreovedes kisensis, quite common abundant species there. And the salamanders. These are plethodontic salamanders, which comprise about 2/3 of all the salamander species in the world are plethodontids. And I was actually surprised to find that the center of diversity of plethodontids is in Central America and the Mexican highlands. And Appalachians are behind in terms of diversity. They are from South America. There are 9 named species, and there's a new study by Jaramillo et al. From 2020 that they did genetics on the samples of these that were available in the museums described to these 9 species and assigned to these 9 species, and they found over 40, based on genetic clades, over 40 species just in, or something that they don't have names, but something that would correspond to a species with deep divergence. So Steve Lougheed was talking about them yesterday, if anyone was at the workshop, about the huge number of species of amphibians that have not been described. And we don't even know they're there. And some of them are in trouble and they disappear even before they describe. So this is one of the groups that requires more work. They, for those of you who don't know, these have direct development. So they don't have an aquatic stage, and they live high up in the trees. And you can see the little feet. They developed into these pads. Rather than having like in frogs, the toe pads, they have foot pads that reflect the arboreal and epiphytous existence. Here they are taking a picture of something of interest, perhaps this one. Poison dart frogs, you have to go out during the day and spend quite a bit of time. They're very fast. So once you have them in focus, they already hop somewhere else. And here's a token lizard. Lizards, usually we go out at night, so they're usually sleeping, and it's not really sporting taking pictures of sleeping lizards. Some of the snakes, this is a red vine snake. Some of them are nocturnal, others are diurnal, but you find them when they're roosting in the trees. A number of the colubrids are mildly venomous. They are rear-fanged, so just as you don't let them chew on you, they're totally harmless. This is a well-photographed species, the blunt-headed tree snake. Has quite a wide distribution. Some of you may have seen them in Central America as well. But trying to get the entire body into a picture is a bit of a challenge. Like imagine having a body like that. You don't even know what the end of your body is doing. Here's a diurnal species, the green vine snake. Trying to get a picture with the tongue out. And Chironians, so they also called sipos or sipos. There's about 28 species of them. This one is the Amazon puffing snake. It is mildly venomous, but they described as gentle, easily gentled, which was true in this case. They have two types of venom. One is used for reptiles and birds, and the other one for mammals. It's an interesting story of this particular snake. It was found in the rafters of one of the huts. And here we are catching it. And it also provided an opportunity for a bit of outreach with the staff, because otherwise it would have just been killed. So they were very interested in the snake, and we left the snake stick with them so in the future they could remove them before the guests arrive. So now we're going to another site along the Payamino River and to the Timburi Culture Research Station. This is also in Ecuador. There it is. The station is run by University of Manchester, UK, together with an Ecuadorian university in Puyo in the Amazon area. The building at the back is the sleeping quarters upstairs, and then our lab was established downstairs. Part of the objective there was to help Ross Maynard, who was working on his master's on documenting the diversity of herbs in the area, and also the effects of a very old road that had now been abandoned. It still has a footprint. The easiest way to get around, if there are no paths, is to walk along creeks and rivers. But of course, you do it at night, and At first, I was careful trying to walk on my tippy toes, not to get water going over my boots. And that was hopeless, of course. And then the next thing, okay, I won't let it get to my underwear. I just have to try to stay out of the deeper parts. And then after a while, it's okay. Just keep my camera dry. It doesn't, otherwise it doesn't matter. So here they are taking a picture of this little frog here. Some of the creatures that we found here. Here's another hippo. And a boana, a very pretty boana. Oh, and these are interesting. These are another genus of large tree frogs, the osteocephalus, or the boneheads. There are a number of species of boneheads. And you can see in this one, this is the Torinus. The skin on the head is actually fused to the skull. And at the neck area, it forms these kind of bony ridges. And the glass frogs, I find them very featureless. They're pretty hard to identify. Oh, and more Kristimantes. The one at the bottom is not having a good day. And they're doing this again. So Ross is also, he's a young guy. He's just doing his master's and stuff, but he's an expert in a lot of things. And one of the things he's an expert is in identification of Kristimantes. So I would just go to him and, oh, what's this one? What's this one? I try not to disturb the animals too much. Like if the best is if you can sort of discreetly take your picture, but try to get identifying features. But he always keeps on telling me, oh, you gotta extend the hind leg, gotta extend the hind leg. And this is why you have to extend the hind leg for Kristimantes. Another one is microhylids. These are tiny little, you can't really see the scale in this, but the tiny little frogs that feed on termites and ants. And you have to flip them on their backs. If you don't flip them on their backs, then you won't get a proper identification. And here, can you see this one? Really good camouflage. This is, we were walking through primary forest. So a lot of this stuff that I showed you earlier is secondary forest. And we found this creature, and it generated great excitement among our group. And it's a hemiphractus. We had to put the lighter colored leaf behind it just to show the incredible form. Here we are with some of the staff and students who were there collecting some cassava roots from the nearby village and platanas to supplement our diet of lentils and rice that was served morning, lunch, and dinner. You don't have to go very far. You can find right around the buildings and in the secondary forest, you can find a number of these small tree frogs and other species of Dendroceltus. Also, this one, it looks like it looks like a bird dropping, which probably is the model. And you can also look at your laundry. Inspect your laundry carefully. Oh, and what's this? Look at the so-called head, the front end of this caterpillar, how it's even got the slits on the head. And when it only does it when it's disturbed, so you can blow on it to do its snake imitation. Okay, we're leaving. This is over several trips and over several years. So I've also had an opportunity to go to the Peruvian Amazon. And these are some of the sites here in yellow where we're going to go. The trips start from Iquitos, who is a large metropolitan city in the middle of the jungle. It's still roadless. It's very, very remote. So you fly in there, and people in the city get around on motorbikes or rickshaws, motorized rickshaws. They're very proud of there are no cars, of the wooden buses that they built from local wood on site. The market is absolutely incredible. It's very dirty and enormous. You can buy anything you like. You can buy body parts. And these famous fatty caterpillars, you can get them nice and warm, roasted. And you can also get a new remote. On one trip, some of us were able to rent a houseboat so we could access some of the more remote sites and have our own accommodation with us. The Amazon itself, and also the larger rivers like Napo, they're quite boring. You don't really see anything. They're so wide, it's like being out on sea, unless you're into spotting the Amazon pink dolphins. But you can make stops along the way and chase these little guys. Or the rainbow boa, if you're lucky. This is another of the monkey frogs, the Philomedusa bicolor. This is the largest one of the Philomedusa. It's about the size of a grapefruit. It's a big frog, big chunky frog. They live high up in the canopy. They rarely come down. So this is really lucky. These frogs are on top of a tree, a tall tree, but the tree was growing in a gully, and we were walking along the edge of the gully on the ridge. So we were looking straight on these frogs that were sitting up there. There were actually 3 of them. And there were about 5 of us, and we all got the same pictures. Little bit of predation. It's a blunt-headed tree frog with lizard of some sort. The Amazon Conservatory for Tropical Studies, or ACTS, is one place that we were able to visit. It's a couple hours hike from the Sukusari River. It's the world's, reputably, is the world's longest canopy walk. It's about 500 meters long with several platforms. And there's all kinds of studies, canopy studies going on there. You can walk it during the day or night. The night is quite interesting. Just have to avoid putting your hand on the bullet ants that like to use the ropes as highways. But try to catch the frogs up there is a different thing at night. Oh, this is not a very good picture, but I wanted to put it in. This was on that same trip, and we were out at night, and I was the last one to turn in, so I was sort of left behind because I said, oh, I can still do a little bit. And then I got so tired when I was going back to the camp, to the boat. But we photograph everything, like even the common species, like every individual gets photographed. So there was a little brown frog on a leaf, and I said, okay, it's probably another Pristimantis, I better take a picture. And the next morning we looked at them. This is not the Pristimantis. This is a Hemifractus, and it's an unknown species. So there was great excitement. I'm the only person in the world who has 2 photos of this species. So we all went back there, and the next night we looked and we couldn't locate it. I think they went back the year after as well. Okay, so now we are leaving the Amazon, and we're going to go, I'll see if I can use this. We're going to go to the cloud forest, just a couple of slides from here and over here. And then we're going to go to the Shoko over here. This is the Yanayaki field station. It's about 200 meters. It was very cold there after the Amazon. Like we had to take the blankets off the beds and wrap ourselves in them to walk in the forest. Quite a different environment. But this frog, I told you, Pristimantis are little brown jobs. This one is not the little brown job. This is quite an amazing creature that lives there. And it has an IUCN listing. It's a very limited range. It is, I get it right, it's vulnerable, listed as vulnerable. And if it didn't have the red eye, it would be quite camouflage blend into the environment. A lot of the cloud forest frogs, and creatures, insects as well, they have the sort of spikes and they look like moss. It's another cloud forest place near Mindo. Bella Vista is a birding spot. A lot of birders go there. So just crazy people walk there at night. And this is the Pinocchio frog. Also has a very limited distribution. Pristimantis appendiculatus. And another token lizard. I really like the way the rain droplets were on it, and they were actually magnifying the scales underneath. Now we over the Andes on the Pacific slope in northwestern western Ecuador in the Choco lowlands. It has a very high biodiversity of all kinds of organisms in that area, and it's very poorly explored. It extends the same kind of forest extends to Colombia, to southwestern Colombia. It was November, it was extremely wet. So if I had any ideas of sitting there, taking pictures of hummingbirds, that was quickly abandoned. But we found this species. It doesn't have IUCN status, but it appears to be declining, and it has fairly limited distribution. It's quite a large species. And also this one. This is the Diablo Pequeño, the little devil frog. It's actually not that little. It's 4 centimeters long, which for a poison dart frog is quite large. It's rare in Ecuador, but in Colombia it's still quite abundant in places. Here you can see the size of it here. We also took some white box photos of some of the creatures. And the salamanders, I do not know what the species is. It looks different. But it's difficult. In some of the trips we had permits to collect, like even doing swabs and bringing DNA out, you need all kinds of permits. Ecuador in particular is very, very particular. We didn't want to do like the group I was with. They didn't want to do anything wrong, like everything was done by the book. Otherwise, you never get to go back. Eyeless viper, another one, other species from the Pacific slopes. They nocturnal and arboreal. So you see them sitting up in pretty positions up in the trees. And the common name comes from this conical scale that is above the eye. Oh, and this is one of my favorites, a trachyboa. They described as in the literature as gentle and peaceful. So they do an interesting thing, but we didn't see it because I was adamant that we won't disturb it enough for it to do it. They skirt blood from the eyes when disturbed. And the last site where we're going is also on the Pacific slope, Manduriacu, in northeastern Ecuador. It's an interesting place. I haven't talked much about conservation. There's really nothing I can tell to this crowd that you don't know already. But this project was specifically conservation oriented. It was for sale, this parcel of land. It's only 600 hectares, but it was undisturbed rainforest, and it was for sale, and the person who owned it wanted it conserved. So our objective was one of the objectives was just to document what is there, so that we can go, or they can go, like I wasn't involved in that part, but the Ecuador Biodiversity Group can go to conservation organizations and try to get them to protect it and buy it. And it wasn't really even that much, like the price, land in Ecuador, remote. So I said, why don't we just pull some money and just collect some money and buy it? But it's not that simple, because if it's not protected, if you don't have wardens out there and work with the communities, the poachers will move in. What they're poaching is trees. So it'll be clear cut in no time at all. So for this trip, we had mules to carry our stuff, except the camera gear, and I was delegated to carry the eggs. The first part of the trail is just incredibly muddy. This is what they use for the logging, and it's done with mules. So the road gets just so muddy. Poor Amanda is stuck there in the mud. Then it got a little bit more natural. The eggs are still making it across the bridge. This was our makeshift accommodation and lab there. And the footwear that you need anyway in Ecuador and Peru in the forest is the rubber boots, long rubber boots. It's a national footwear in Ecuador. You see people in the out of bus window in the fields. This is what they're wearing. Ecuador boots, they're the greatest. We were looking for this species. This is a little Andean toad that is critically in IUCN and critically endangered. It was thought to be extinct. There was one specimen was found, and in that general area. So our objective was to go and sample the area and see if we can find more of them, and we did. They live along this these fast flowing streams. I was on the first trip that they did there, but since then they've done many other trips in trying to protect it and document what herbs and other species they are. And it turns out to be incredibly biodiverse area. And just recently, just in the last year or so, the foundation Ecominga from Ecuador took over the management. So it does now have protection. And I just like to end up with some biodiversity photos from the Amazon lowlands. There's I'll use this. This is one of my favorite creatures, an onychophorus or velvet worm. It used to be the missing link between mollusks and arthropods or something like that. But they just absolutely need creatures, and they shoot glue when they get disturbed. So if you disturb them too much when you're taking a photo, your lens will get this blotch of sticky glue. And I don't have personal experiences about their behavior, but in the literature, they hunt in packs. They predators. And then when it's time to eat, it's the adult females eat first. Yeah. some more. Some more of the biodiversity. And that is it. Thank you all for listening.